to join me live on a Monday. Sorry that I've not always been able to tell you what time I'll be going live. It's because I go live across all of my platforms on a Monday. So it's just difficult sometimes to know exactly when. So I've just gone live on my Facebook page, Marianne Hanson Counselling Service, so you can check that out. But it's the same video that I'm going to be doing here. So if you go through my YouTube channel, you'll see that last year, it might have been, or the year before, I did a video about this book, Closer to Love by Vex King. I've also made, I think, quite a few videos where I've looked at different exercises from the book. So what I want to talk about is something which I may have already talked about, but it's really important because when I've worked with couples or when I've worked with individuals, this comes up a lot in terms of them feeling that there's something getting in the way of them having healthy, fulfilling and long-lasting relationships. So I want to talk about blockages to giving and receiving love. So Vex King says in his book that a relationship can help you to cultivate more love, but it will amplify the abundance or the lack of love you carry towards yourself. So he says that the secret to starting a new relationship is bring only what you need and don't be weighed down by unnecessary stuff. So what that really means, this is how I interpret it, is that, I mean, there's no way of you going into a relationship and not bringing something in from your past relationship, because as human beings, that's what we do. So maybe if we've been hurt or cheated on or something has happened in your past relationships, you're coming into your new relationship and you're trying to be a fresh start, you know, a blank slate, but something will trigger you or something will crop up where you just think, oh, does that mean he doesn't like me? Does that mean she's going to cheat? Does that mean this? Does that mean this? So your key thing is to just have an open-mindedness and an awareness that that's what you're doing, but don't allow it to impact on your current relationship, because that's where the problems start, really. That's my feeling, is that the person you're with, the person in front of you, they're not the one that's cheating. They're not the one that is, doing anything wrong, but the person in the past has. And what you're doing is you're focusing more on what's happened in the past than on what's happening in your current relationship. So it says to ask yourself some questions. I've written them down. So the first one is, how do you see yourself? So I've done this exercise with my clients where we've looked at self-esteem, we've looked at self-love, where it's relationship stuff as well. How do you see yourself? So sometimes I might ask my client, describe yourself to a stranger. Give 3 words to describe who you are. Thanks for joining, whoever's joined. Tell me 3 words to describe you. And do you know what? When I did the self-love project, which I did on I had a coaching channel as well as this channel, but it was too much. it was too much doing the coaching channel. I'm from Birmingham, UK, so I had my coaching channel, I had my lifestyle channel, and I had this. So hi Diana. So ask yourself, how do you see yourself? So the second question to ask yourself is, what makes you who you are? What are the things that make you you? So that might be your unique personality. That might be that you're the person everyone goes to when they need help. You might be the reliable person. You might be, there could be any, you speak lots of languages, whatever it is, what makes you who you are, it's worth reflecting on, because this is all to do with self-love. This is all to do with self-awareness. Because before you even step into a relationship, you need to understand yourself. This is something people don't spend enough time doing. So they say, right, I get to a certain age and they say, right, now I need to start dating. But do you understand yourself? Do you understand what type of company you are when you're around people? Do you know about your communication? Do you know what gets you into a bad mood or that sort of thing? So what makes you who you are? What do you have to offer? So forget all of this stuff where people are like, what are you bringing to the table? And they're using it in a very aggressive, threatening way. You know, tell me what you've got. Why should I date you? What are you bringing to the table? What can you do for me? All of these really aggressive, they're not aggressive, that's the wrong word, but loaded, like, I'm fine, thanks Riyadh, thanks for asking. So all of these questions, it's about you asking yourself, what do you feel that you have to offer to a partner or to a person? Be honest with yourself. You know, I'm quite someone that is quite honest about who I am as a person. So I know that I work hard, for example. I'm a workaholic to a certain degree. if I'm on a Saturday, even yesterday, Sunday, you know, I've got my laptop on a Sunday. Why do you need to? Sorry, Riyadh, but no, I'm not answering that. Why do you need to know how old I am? So I sometimes on a Sunday I might have my laptop out. Sometimes I'm quite opinionated. So, but then I also have lots of good qualities. You know, I'm a very supportive person, very reliable. If you ask me to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. I will never let anyone down. You know, I'm very trustworthy. So the thing is, think about what you have to offer. And then that's about you evaluating. If there's things that you need to work on before you go into a relationship, then do the work then. But just be honest with yourself. If you know what type of person you are, then you need to sort of own that in a sense. And it's not about criticizing or judging yourself. But if you're going to meet someone and that person is the complete opposite of what you want, or if that person has said what they want and you know that's not who you are, we could save a lot of time if people just did that a lot more. Because I think people want to then, if someone has a list of qualities that they want in a person, sometimes you'll mold yourself into being like that. But why should you do that if that's not really who you are? Because then later down the line it goes to pieces because you were just pretending. So the next thing it says is you need to think about what are your deepest values, what are the things you value most in the world. Then how do you handle criticism? How do you handle rejection? How do you handle stress? Also, how do you handle failure as well? Those are things to think about, because how you handle rejection, failure, stress or criticism when you're by yourself is going to make a difference when you're with someone. So I've worked with lots of couples and lots of individuals where stress has been the biggest thing in their relationship. So maybe the partner is always stressed at work, so then they're bringing that into the relationship, and their partner is saying, he's always stressed. He's always projecting anger from work onto me. I've worked with people where failure, because they're so like insecure about like failing at things, or they might be a perfectionist, that also can impact on the relationship, because anytime something goes wrong, it takes that person all the way down. So these are some of the things that you need to think about as a person. What are your stress strategies when things go wrong? Because in life, things are going to go wrong. You're going to fail at things. That's part of life. There's going to be stress. That is part of being alive. There's going to be criticism. You know, you don't want to probably be with a person who, what have you, I can't, yeah, there's some messages, but I've not, I can't read them properly. I can't see what's going on. So you don't want to be with a person where if there's little criticism or things are happening, that they kind of fly off the handle, you know, or they're quite not able to respond or communicate in a way that is what you need. But then you also want to be that person as well. So the next thing to ask yourself is, what are your non-negotiables? So if you go to this channel, what you will see is a video that I made called What Are Your Must-Haves or Your Deal Breakers in a Relationship? And this is an exercise I do with the clients that I work with as well. But this is an exercise I've done myself. So I'll make a list. Instead of this pretentious list that people make, I want someone tall. I'm sorry, I'm not being critical. If that's what you want, if your main thing on your list is someone who's tall, or someone who has a car, or someone who wears designer clothes, or someone who, I don't know, has a particular haircut and stuff, that's fine, because all of those things, I'm not going to say they're superficial, they might be important to you. When I speak with my clients, what I ask you to do is to break down the 3 to 5 must-haves, and they must be the most essential things you would need in a person or in a relationship. Because if you narrow it down to just 5, I'm sure lots of the things that people put on their list are going to be taken off that list. So you're looking at, these are 5 things I have to have in my relationships, and then the 5 things, or 3 to 5 things that are deal breakers. So no matter who the person is in front of you, if anything on that list of 5 things. So if you're talking about you don't want someone who uses drugs or smokes, then that's your deal breaker. What that would mean, because this is the thing that happens a lot, and I've seen this happen. Someone will have a deal breaker. So it might be, I don't want anyone who drinks. I don't want someone who has children. I don't want someone who smokes. That will be their deal breakers. They've already decided that. But then they'll meet someone, and this person might be fantastic, they might get on really well together and all the rest of it, but then those things are still your deal breakers, but you'll still go on to date that person. Now, I can't tell you how many times in the last 16 years that I've worked with either a couple or an individual where they've said, I don't like his smoking, or I don't like the fact that she puts the children first, or I don't like... And I say, but when you met the person, did you know that they were smoked? Yes, I did, but I thought they would give up. Did you know that they had children? Yes, I did, but I didn't think it would be an issue. So what I'm trying to say is, if you already put your non-negotiables, the things that are your deal breakers, then this issue won't come up later on, because you're already going to say at the offset, you're a smoker. I'm not telling you to stop smoking because that's your lifestyle. You know, I'm not saying to you that there's anything wrong because you have children, because that's who you are, they're a part of you. But if that's your deal breaker as a person, don't bring that person into your situation, and don't then date them and then later down the line say, well, this is causing an issue because you knew that at the beginning. I'm someone that's quite clear with that. If something is a massive deal breaker, and forget like all of this red flag stuff, because that's a different topic. A deal breaker means that it's something that is just not going to work between the two of you. It's not even a negative thing. It means that person can go on and find their relationship. You can go on and find yours, but the two of you are not going to work because it's too big, the thing. For some people, it could be religion. For some people, that's another thing that keeps coming up. People will say, okay, I'm dating someone from a different religion because we get on and all the rest of it. And then they'll be in therapy and they'll be, I'm not saying this has happened with me, I've heard this. They'll be in therapy or they'll be speaking to their pastor and they'll be saying, well, this person, the religion is getting in the way. But it's like, that's something you knew at the beginning. So you either have to say, if that's a deal breaker for you, then we can't date. But you can't expect then someone to change who they are when you met them. So then you ask yourself, what does your ideal relationship look like? Visualize it, think about it, you know, be realistic. Does my ideal relationship look like we are going on holidays together? Does my ideal relationship look like we are spending time hanging out? This is another thing that people don't think about. All these questions that Vex King is saying to think about in his book, Closer to Love, is so that it can prepare yourself mentally before you even meet the person. You're asking yourself, what do I have to offer? You're asking, what do you need? You're saying, what are my non-negotiables? How can I deal with stress? How do I deal with rejection? What does my relationship look like? Just because you have an ideal picture of what your relationship looks like, it doesn't mean when you're in that relationship it's going to be perfect. We're not looking at perfection, you know, movie style relationships. But I think thinking about what your relationship looks like has a massive impact as when you're in with that person, when you're in that relationship. If you haven't considered what it's going to be like, what will happen is sometimes there'll be clashes, because if your ideal relationship is pizza and chill, is it called, no, look at me showing my age, Netflix and chill, you know, or the other person's ideal relationship is going for walks in the park, but then you meet someone and then that doesn't happen, you might start to think, well, what's going on here? But the thing is, you might not have expressed that when you're in the dating phase with the person. So it's important for you to consider it. So these are the common blockages to receiving love. So we're going to talk about this, and then the common blockages to giving love. So common blockages to receiving love are general insecurities, feelings of unworthiness, unwillingness to work at the relationship, and a belief that a relationship will end. So if you're in a relationship and you have these blockages, what that means is that the perfect person could be in front of you. They could be showering you with love. They could be giving you everything that you have said that you needed, but your insecurities will get in the way. Your feelings of unworthiness, you'll be thinking, I don't deserve this person. This is too good to be true. You know, they're saying that they love me, but I don't believe it. They're saying that I'm beautiful, but I don't believe that. They're saying they'll never cheat on me. I don't believe that. And you have to realize that the blockages are based on the fact that things have probably happened to you in your past, or things that have happened to you, messages that you've received is that you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough to receive love, and you have to recognize first and identify that that's the issue. It's not the person in front of you. You know, when people are saying, oh, this person's too good to be true, oh, this person's boring, this person's too nice, I just don't trust them. I've heard people say that, you know, oh, I don't trust this person because they're doing everything right. I don't believe this person, there's something off about them because they're too nice. You know, that's a red flag. You know, I mean, I've actually heard people say, you know, it's a red flag if someone is doing everything right. And that is coming from something deep within. That's coming from the past. That is coming from the beliefs you hold, because you have a person in front of you who's treating you like a king, treating you like a queen. And your first thought is, what's wrong with them? But that's because deep down you don't believe you deserve it. So it's coming from insecurities, and it's blocking you being able to receive love and being in a type of relationship that you deserve. So the other one on there, I'm not going to go through all of them. This belief that relationships will end means that for many people they sabotage a relationship. So what will happen in that situation is everything is going along really well. I've worked with couples. When I first started working with couples, I was working with couples who have been together for a year, been together for 20 years, been together for 15 years. It doesn't matter the length of time, but what's interesting is that there's certain people that you can be together with someone for 20 years and you can still hold a belief that they're going to walk out the door any minute. And that's really interesting to me, because what that means is no matter how secure the relationship is, no matter how long that person has been with you, no matter what that person has done, something is still holding you back from believing that this relationship is not going to that it's not going to last. And that could be because you might have had lots of bereavements or loss in your life. That could be because your parents might have told you that, you know, you're terrible at relationships, none of your relationships will end up working out. If you still hold on to those beliefs and those messages, it doesn't matter if you have the best marriage that everyone is looking at, everyone's inspired by, you don't believe it. So that's going to be a blockage to receiving love. And in those situations, the person will either do something to sabotage the relationship, so maybe they'll cheat, or maybe they will intentionally start arguments with the person, try to drive them away, or the person will always be on edge. I've worked with many people who have said things like, I don't know why, but I always feel like I'm on eggshells. Doesn't matter how long I'm in this relationship for. That's that feeling of just never feeling quite comfortable. You just think that person's going to walk out the door. So it is worth working through these things. So the next category is blockages to you giving love to someone. Some of the blockages are discomfort with intimacy. You just get that feeling of, oh, this is too much. You know, I don't want to say I love you. Oh, I don't want the person touching me. I know quite a few people in my personal life who are like that. I actually had a friend many years ago who she didn't receive compliments very well from her partner. Didn't like the touchy-feely thing. It would be, oh, what's he touching me for? What's he... You know, and it was just a bit weird because, not weird isn't the right word, it was awkward because it was kind of like seeing a loving relationship where someone is very affectionate, but then also recognizing that not everyone likes that. You know, that's coming from somewhere, so maybe there is a discomfort with intimacy. So that can be a blockage to giving love to other people. Also a belief that everyone leaves. So we've talked about that. There's a belief that the relationship will end. But also, if you feel that everyone leaves you because they've left you before, you're not going to invest, you're not going to open your heart into a relationship. And this is one of the biggest blockages to giving love, because if you're in a relationship and that person can see that you're not giving your all, you're just giving, 10% of your heart is open to this, you're not really in it. People will pick up on that. I've picked up on that when I've been in a relationship. If I know that this person is kind of just holding back a bit too much, it's things like you maybe dated them for a year and a half and you've not met any of their friends or their parents, or it could be that they're nice to you. I remember I dated someone, I dated him for a year, and I said to him, I always feel like you're on your best behaviour around me, but I don't really feel like I see you. And this was, even though this is not coming from a counselling perspective, I didn't feel I knew him properly. And I still don't know why, because obviously we ended our relationship, I ended the relationship, but it was like he was holding back. It was like he was keeping that bit of a distance between us, and it was a shame because everything else was there. The chemistry was there. I was feeling really invested, but I felt like he was just keeping that little bit of a barrier or distance. So for some people, you know, maybe they have this fear that the person's going to leave. So another thing is a fear of rejection, uncertainty, past trauma, fear of vulnerability, and uncertainty of what it means to love. So I'm going to look at a few of those in a bit more detail. So past trauma can stop you from giving love because, obviously, for obvious reasons, if you've been through trauma, and that could be anything from childhood abuse, it could be domestic violence, it could be all sorts of things, you know, sexual assault, it could be bullying. There's so much different types of trauma that you could experience when you're a child or even as a young adult, that when you then come into a relationship, you have to process that, you have to heal from that, and that person might not be aware of it. But then how can you give love fully? How can you open up your heart completely when you've done that before and that has led you to be assaulted, when you've done that before and that has led you to be hurt, when you've done that before and that's caused you deep trauma? You're just not going to do it automatically. So what I'd say that is, if someone is holding on to past trauma, not holding on to it, but they haven't worked through it, that would be something you can do. You don't have to even do that with a counsellor. Maybe you do that with yourself. Maybe you go off to a meditation retreat. Maybe you spend some time and space reflecting on what you need to heal before you then enter. I'm not saying to people that, because for some people they might never heal from the actual trauma itself. They might never fully heal. Maybe they just navigate it day by day. So a good example is, everyone knows, if they've watched this channel enough and if you see the videos, you know, I had a bereavement with my sister who ended her life. Now, that is never going to heal completely. Doesn't matter if it's been 6 years, 7 years, I think it's coming on 6, 7 years. Losing someone in that way means that that is part of my life story. That is always going to be something. When I see photos, which are still in my living room, when I'm talking about how many sisters I have to someone, when I'm with Christmas, birthdays, all the rest of it, it's a part of my story. So even though it's not trauma in that sense, it's something which is a part of my journey. So it wouldn't be something that would get in the way of me giving love, but it's something which, I suppose, whenever a bereavement comes up, or if something similar came up in that situation where someone was talking about, it is something which I have to keep track of, because it can be a trigger. So what we have to realise is our past is part of our story, and the person you end up with has to, you have to help them to navigate that. They're not going to know that when they want to be sexual with you, or when they tell you that they love you, when they come up behind you and give you a hug, that's causing you to freeze because you used to be beaten in the past. They're not going to know that, you know, sex for you reminds you of when you were molested. They're not going to know some of these things. So I think that's where the vulnerability comes in. If you really want to be with someone and that person is open to understanding you, don't be scared to be vulnerable with that person. Share with them what's really going on for you. Share with them why this is difficult for you. Because some relationships fall apart because we don't communicate what's going on for us. Your partner might have months of just feeling, why is she like recoiling every time I go to touch her? Why is sex always feels uncomfortable? They might not know that it's to do with the past trauma or your past history, but then the relationship will end because they'll just say, this is too much now, I can't handle this. And then it will only be after the relationship ends sometimes that person can open up and say, this is what happened. And it might be too late then. So the last one I'm going to focus on is uncertainty of what it means to love. This is a big one, but I'm going to try to maybe just spend a few minutes on this. Everyone's definition of love is different, but our first blueprint of love and relationships comes from our parents. So if you've been in an environment where all you've witnessed is domestic violence between your mum and dad, if you've never witnessed your mum and dad saying kind things to each other, you've never witnessed them hugging each other, Kissing. I mean, I had, my late father was an African man, very strong, very, he was not scary to be fair, but he was a very dominant presence in our home. My mum, Jamaican, completely different. They were like chalk and cheese, but I never ever heard them argue, not in front of us. They might have argued with closed doors, but we didn't even go into their bedroom. You had to knock and you had to stand outside. My blueprint for a relationship was that two people who were chalk and cheese still had respect for each other and still operated as a functioning family in front of us. I didn't see them be disrespectful to each other. I didn't see them be completely affectionate. I didn't see any I can't remember hugs and kisses with my mum and dad, but I didn't see any animosity. We were in a very lively household. That it felt comfortable. So my blueprint for love wouldn't be, I'd say, my mum and dad, because as I said, I would want more affection and I would want more, but I didn't see anything that would make me think hitting each other, shouting at each other. So there's that. But there's also, when we're watching films, when we're going on social media, when are those messages absorbing into us so that we believe that that is what love should look like? We're getting our messages from all over the place, books, we might, movies. So what you have to think about is, what does love mean to you? What does love look like to you? We need to sit down and we need to say, a loving relationship to me is this. You know, it might not be Valentine's Day where someone gives you flowers and chocolates. That might not be your idea of like love. Because personally, for me, Valentine's Day is neither here or there. You know, yeah, I'll acknowledge it, but I'm not going to say that my partner has to make a big deal on Valentine's Day and give me a card and take me out and stuff. It wouldn't be a big issue for me. However, if my birthday, for example, came across and they didn't, I'm not asking for presents because I can buy my own things, but if they didn't acknowledge my birthday, that would be an issue for me. You know, things as well, like someone giving you verbal cues that they care about you is important to me. You don't have to say I love you every day, but I'd want to hear you say something that shows me what you feel. I asked someone once I was dating, how do you feel about me? And his response was, I have strong feelings towards you. I still don't know what that means. What does strong feelings mean? At the time I felt like, what? You know, he wasn't able to communicate, I care about you, I love you, I'm falling for you, I like you. I still don't know. Strong feelings could mean absolutely anything. Strong negative feelings, strong positive feelings, you know, I don't know. So when we know what it means to love other people, we demonstrate that. We demonstrate that through our actions and through our words, but we only know what love means if we define it for ourselves. It doesn't have to be what your parents defined as love. It doesn't have to be what social media says is love. It needs to be what we feel is love. So I would recommend this book, Closer to Love by Vex King. Thank you to everyone, Rutik, Diana, Riyadh, everyone that has joined on this live stream. I really appreciate it. And I will go live every Monday. It will probably be at different times. I will try to give you in advance. And thank you, and thanks for joining again. Feel free to drop your comments in later, and I will be back next Monday. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Thank you. Bye.